Okay. Hi, Mike. How are you?
Hey, Reggie, how are you?
Doing real well. I haven't had a chance to cover your team this year, and I'm looking at these shooting percentages and such a great scoring offense that you've got. Is there one or two things that's really contributing to that?
I think our ability to pass is one of the real big contributors, Reggie. I mean, it's a group that really has a feel for the game, and our big guys are good with the basketball and have passed it well. I don't think, and I think that's a rule of thumb. You look at the teams that are up there in field goal percentage. I believe Duke's second, and they're all teams that can pass the ball. Certainly, you have to have shot makers, but they pass it and they unselfishly, play together. We do have a number of guys that can make good shots, when the ball is moved, and so we can score it from a lot of different spots in a lot of different ways.
And you have to have great selection. You guys must really have a feel for that.
I think we've gotten some easier buckets. We've get some layups in transition because we've turned people over. We're good in transition on missed field goals, especially our starting group, because we're a little smaller and we can really spread you out. So, we have the floor spread. We do have some more drivers. Grant and Jackson really can get to the basket. Connaughton can get to the basket. So, Zach August gets easy baskets for us. He does a great job of playing off a perimeter that passes well. His shooting percentage is off the charts because he's kept it really simple. So I think we're getting easy baskets in transition, off of turnovers, and we do have the ability to drive the ball to the basket.
What is one of the keys to Demetrius being such an improved player this year?
I think the biggest key has been he gets the ball in his hands. Eric Atkins graduated, and we were able to give him the ball, and we were able to give him the ball in July because we had a foreign tour. So he was our starting point guard in July for 10 practices and 4 games through Italy. So what we wanted to achieve with him being confident, him quarterbacking our team, we were able to do it in the summer, and it really has helped him and Zach August. Both of those guys really have benefited from the foreign tour, that they got to start and be coached like main guys in the summer.
That's great. Thanks, Mike.
You got it.
Kyle?
Hey, Mike. Working on a story kind of about Indiana's affinity with basketball, kind of a love affair. You've been here for a while now. Obviously, you knew before the history of the state or whatever, but how long did it take you once you got here to kind of realize, wow, this is kind of a way of life in Indiana?
I think 1 month on the job. I got the job in the midst of the recruiting period. I was hired in July. And so you were out on the circuit and you were really into high school basketball. And I was really into high school basketball because I was trying to make sure Chris Thomas stayed with us. He had committed to us. Matt Doherty had done a great job getting him to commit. And so you got to know Alan Darner, and you got to know the state. Certainly after being here 15 years, what I appreciate but the coaches in the state are great teachers. They run their program more like college programs. And it fits great with how we try to play up here. We really look at basketball IQ and feel for the game. And every kid we've had on this roster from Indiana really understands how to play. We have more Indiana kids on the roster than we ever have. We've been pretty strong in this state lately, and the state has been good to us, and this event is good for our in-state recruiting.
Yeah, I mean, that's where I was going to go next, talking about that. I mean, it's kind of unusual at times for a private school to really focus locally on recruiting. But clearly, being in the state of Indiana, it's kind of history. It seems like that's a huge focus on your guys' recruiting.
It really has been. I mean, I think for a while we didn't do much in Indiana. But, you had mentioned it up front. I mean, I'm the old guy in the state. The other Division I jobs have changed a couple times. And I've been here 15 years. You really get to know the high school coaches. I think they've really gotten to know our program and seen how we've done things. And I think they respect that guys get better here. So, you get an endorsement, from the high school coaches and the AAU programs as well.
All right. Well, thanks a lot, Mike.
You got it.
Is there anyone else on the line that has any questions?
I'm Nathan Baird from the Washington Journal and Courier.
Okay, thank you, Nathan. You can ask your
Mike,
question.
Yep.
Good, thanks. Obviously you guys have done a lot of great things this season offensively, and it's probably getting a lot of attention. What's been the key to how well you guys have done defensively?
I think the key has been Demetrius Jackson's ball pressure. We're better on that end of the floor because he can pressure the ball, and offenses have had to start a little further out. We've gotten more overplay steals off the ball than we've had in a long, long time, maybe in my whole tenure, because of Demetrius's ball pressure. And it's an exhausting, unselfish proposition to do that for 30-some minutes a game, but he knows how important it is to our team.
I'm sorry, I got in kind of late. Maybe just what is it about Purdue that strikes you or that you think is going to be the key as far as winning on Saturday?
Well, nobody feeds the post, and these two big guys more than Purdue. We just played a Florida State team with 3 7-footers, but they weren't as offensively gifted or the focus of the offense as Purdue with these two bigs. So you're really going to have to play post defense, and you're going to have to help your big guys guard their two big guys at times. Then they do a nice job of surrounding with some shooters. And I think Matt's done a fabulous job with this team. His young players are playing more like sophomores than freshmen. They're very confident right now. Of course, the Purdue program under Matt has always been a very good defensive program. That has not changed. The one thing they are doing different because of these bigs is playing a little more zone than they've ever played before.
Does that change how you prepare for this?
Now I think, you get some more. I think you got to get some more reps. We have 2 practices today and tomorrow where you start to get into their tendencies offensively. A lot of it is post defense and rebounding and blocking out. And how do we help our post guys defend? How do we come down and crowd the post? We did a good job of that against Florida State. I think we'll be put in that position even more so Saturday evening.
Your flashers right in the towel.
And then you offensively you want to get some reps against zone because I think you could see more of that than maybe past Purdue teams.
Thanks a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else on the line for questions?
When you would go into buildings every year, Madison Square Garden, or the guy with the ponytail in Providence, or the guys that you knew in Verizon, I mean, you saw them every year. What is it about Bankers Life that makes it unique, where you walk into that building, you're like, I'm back at Bankers Life?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you have, I love the vibe of that town when there's a basketball event. And I'm sure, and I did go to the Super Bowl a couple years ago, and it's a great sports town, but because this is a basketball state, it's a great hoops town. And even tomorrow night, you can feel the buzz because it's almost like an NCAA tournament feel. With the fans of the 4 schools in town, going out to dinner, hanging out, and then a great crowd, on Saturday. But yeah, you get to see. I'm like the road in the Big East. You get to know the different security guys and your different hosts, and so there is a comfort level there. I think again, I give credit to the 4 athletic directors. I think this has been a grand slam on all fronts for all 4 programs.
Do you have a choice year to year on whether or not you play the first game or the second game?
No, TV dictates
TV
everything. Yep.
When with finals and everything, when do you start seeing the finals fog clear with your guys? Is it like Friday afternoon where they're kind of back to basketball?
Yeah, I think we're going to get on the bus at 1 o'clock tomorrow and practice down there. I think when we get on that bus, we'll have a 2-hour decompression ride, and I'm looking for a really focused practice in Bankers Life Friday. Today, we need some attention, but today we got some guys with tests tonight and tomorrow. But I think on that bus ride, and by the time we get to practice and certainly dinner, you see the decompression.
Any chance of VJ being ahead of schedule? Or you're still looking at?
BJ Beecham encouragingly was shooting yesterday and going through 5-on-0. I still don't think he's ready to go Saturday, but to see him out there in a shooting drill and going through some 5-on-0 stuff and some transition stuff, nothing live, I think is very encouraging and is a little bit ahead of where I thought he'd be.
It's interesting, Mike, to hear you say you're shooting well offensively because you're turning people over, and you mentioned that isn't something you've been able to say very often. I mean, that's got to be another weapon to the arsenal that you normally don't have.
Yeah, we've not really had that here, and I think you look at certainly Demetrius and Jaron have those steal instincts. You know, they have the speed and the quickness of foot and hands, and they're instinctive to get their hands on basketballs. Again, a lot of it starts with Demetrius's ball pressure. A lot of guys benefit by overplaying because he's got the point guard pressured, and he's throwing a longer pass or a harassed pass. Steve Astoria is an amazingly disciplined overplay guy. He really does a great job of contesting passing lanes. Pat Connaughton can get up in a passing lane. BJ does that as well. Torres does that when he comes in. But we have some speed guys and some quick hands guys. But again, when you get back to who's guarding the point guard and who's making him turn his back and make entry passes from further out, it comes back to Jackson.
How nice is it to look out there and see Demetrius relaxed, comfortable, confident? You probably never looked out on the court and saw him in that mode last year.
It's one of the really very rewarding things in my time here to see his growth and to know how confused and lack of confidence that he had last year. To see him grow like this it's really been rewarding to watch, and I give him a lot of credit. After he went through some young stuff last year, he accepted a lot of responsibility of, I got to grow up, I got to be better, I got to be counted on. And I thought when we got into the postseason stuff and then into the summer, he was a voice, and each week he's more of a leader for us.
Getting back to getting steals and ball pressure and stuff, you had mentioned in the preseason you thought that college would be going to a 30-second clock.
I think there's great momentum, Tim, for next season. I think the rules committee, they're in a rules change year, and I think that will be one of the it will be the top topic they discuss. We always, when I was on the committee, and they still do it, they put out a head coach's survey on rules. My feeling would be, I don't know if 50%, or I don't know if a majority would come back to go to 30-second clock. Now, the problem with that survey, only about 40% of the head coaches return them, which really bothers me when I was there and still kind of bothers me. Because then a lot of those guys complain when a rule's changed, but they didn't return the survey. Anyways, that has no bearing on maybe making a rule change, because when the three-point line was put in, there was only about 40% in favor. They did it anyways in 1983 or something. And my feeling is the 30-second clock has that kind of momentum.
My point of bringing it up is that with Demetrius pressuring the basketball for you for the next couple of years, that would make you even more effective defensively.
Yeah. I think when you have a shorter clock, you're right. I mean, if you can pressure it, when you're, whatever you're doing defensively, whether it's pressuring or a good zone or a good pack line defense like Virginia plays, you need more time to get an open shot. And if you don't have as much time, that is beneficial, I think, to defenses. Now, I do think there's a movement with some of the coaches who have the most best players to go to 24 seconds, and there's no way that's happening anytime soon. But I think 30 seconds is a real reality, and, I would be surprised if we're not at 30 next year.
And you like it?
I like it. Yeah, I think it's time, and we experimented with it in the exhibition games, and we experimented in practice. I didn't really see a whole lot of difference, but it would be interesting to look at the data after the first month of games, like by December 15th of next year, is pace of play, and just I think it's a whole. And we got a lot of numbers, guys, as you know. My God, we got more math in this game now. Whatever happened to coaching by the seat of your pants? Anyways, it will be interesting to look at that data in a month of the season next year.
And you like it because you just think the 5 seconds ended up being kind of wasted anyway?
I think the pace of play is slowed. The trend has slowed over really 15 years. I think anything to get it going a little bit, it is good for the game. Players want to play that way. Fans want to watch the game that way.
Some of the things that Demetrius does on the court this year, did you see any of that in practice where there was maybe a glimpse here or a glimpse there?
Last year, absolutely. I mean, there's no question. I mean, he had really good practices and good days. I'll tell you what, when we brought him back from the suspension, the practices leading up to the Miami game, he was good and he played great at Miami. He looked a little bit like this in the Miami game. So, there were great signs to build on. And after that, he started trending up, frame of mind wise, attitude wise. He did. And sometimes you learn lessons the hard way. And I think he's a young man that will always look back at that year and go, I learned a lot. And I had to be better, and I had to, have more of an open mind and be more coachable. And I think he's done that on all fronts.
What was it about Matt Gregory that said that's a walk-on that fits your program?
Well, the one thing we've loved to do with walk-ons, and it, is I like maturity. And a guy, when he's in the locker room, he's talking about older stuff. He was that even as a freshman. We've usually taken older walk-ons. But when he was in my office the first time I met him, I had 15 minutes with him, and amazingly focused. He's a great student. He talks about the stuff he talks about is that of a young man. And he has a feel for the game. He knows how to play. Comes from a very good high school program. I love the flexibility with his size. He could play on the perimeter. He could play inside. Now, knock on wood, we've been pretty healthy. He doesn't get in much 5-on-5. But if he has to, you got the flexibility of playing him as a 3 or more of a 4. But he gets it. He's a team guy. And darn, we have 2 guys from Avon, Indiana. How about that?
Coach, you mentioned offensively, Purdue feeds the post. They're very skilled, but they also rank 3rd in total block shots. Does that kind of change how you?
There's where it's different than Florida State. You would thought Florida State 7-footers, they don't block a lot of shots. These guys do. Now, we can't be overanalyzing and not going to the basket and changing our style of play. I think what I always talk to guys about when we play against teams like this, and Syracuse had been that, and Georgetown in years, you're going to get some shots blocked. So don't let it discourage you. Pick it up off the floor if they block it and lay it up again. We still want our perimeter guys driving. We feel we can get some fouls in there. So, we don't want them looking around for it. Got to still be aggressive.
How does the fact that they play more zone impact your ability to drive against this team?
Yeah, I think that does change it a little bit. I think one of the things that's helped us against zone this year is we've cut more. And we've almost run our man stuff against zone. Cutting more and ball screening the zone like we do man-to-man frees Jaron and Demetrius to get into the lane. Now, they may not be able to get all the way to the hole, but they're able to get in and make those plays out to our shooters in those situations. You just, zone, the thing you want to fight is you can't play with the ball over your head. And the tendency is a lot of times is you don't attack the gaps and you play on your heels. And that's why we've gotten to more of cutting, because it still has you playing downhill a little bit and not back this way.
You mentioned you have more Indiana kids than ever before.
Yeah.
Does that add maybe a little incentive to win?
Oh, yeah. Our Indiana guys, this is big for them, man. This is big for them. And they played against all these Indiana kids on the other teams down there through their high school careers in the AAU circuit. Now, I don't know. It'd be interesting. I mentioned it in a staff meeting yesterday. The only team that maybe has more Indiana kids is Purdue. I think we have more Indiana kids. They've got 9. We have more than Indiana, I believe. And we may have more than Butler. I think we have more than Butler. So we have the second most Indiana kid. And That's very unusual for Notre Dame. These guys will tell you over the years. It's very unusual, but it's been a good thing. This state has been important to us.
Coach, there was, I mean, you mentioned the shooters that they have. Talk about those guards. I mean, some similarities between these two programs.
Yeah. Well, Stevens is a big-time shooter and can light it up from there. You have to have a big team awareness. He's as good as any shooter we've played against this year. So we have to have an awareness. It's not something new to us. We've had to, but they also have guys. They have guys that are a little streaky that could really get going on a Saturday afternoon that maybe haven't shot well yet. And I think what Matt has done a great job of, none of those guys are looking at the bench because he's letting them develop and get their confidence right now. He's not getting on them if they miss a couple. And they play with a free mind, and they're young and attacking and going for it. And again, the two big guys just give a presence there where you always have to be aware of post defense and blocking out because they're just huge.
One last one for me. Coach Painter said today in his teleconference that Notre Dame is a team you hate to play but love to coach. Do you agree?
Yes, I would agree with that. I would agree with that. That's quite I appreciate that from Matt. No, it's I've loved this group. You've heard me say this probably in August when I love my team. And love where we can go, and we still got a lot of work to do, but this would be another real good, it would be a great win for us. Neutral floor, probably going to be a little bit of a road atmosphere, similar to Mohegan Sun. Can we get one in that atmosphere? I think is what I'm going to talk to them about today and tomorrow. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.